There we are. Exclamation point.
All right, like one of everybody's favorite friendship-based moves, we have returned, and and we have Patrick Ridenour versus Andrew Weaver. So Andrew actually played in the Costa Mesa mid-season showdown and in the regional.
Yeah.
He had brought with him an Oricorio team, which I honestly absolutely loved. Not bringing this team this time, but is bringing everybody's favorite dragon type to this team.
Kalmu.
It's Kalmu time! Yeah! But also, I actually did just play Patrick earlier today with that Mega Lopunny team that he has on there.
Yeah, that's cool.
I definitely tilted him a little bit with some really nice avoids. But
Nice.
Patrick on your left side with that Tyranitar Landorus there in Ferrothorn, Zapdos, Lopunny, and that Tapu Fini, as Andrew on your right has that Gengar, Clefairy, Komao, we will say it properly for once, Milotic, Tapu Bulu, and Incineroar.
So Andrew's team, we see some very common picks there. Usually the flex slot has something like Snorlax, Azumarill, Greninja. People are testing all sorts of it, and here with Andrew, he chose Melodic, and I think that's very interesting because it potentially deals with Incineroar very well, and that's one thing that Gengar players don't really want to face.
I will also say this, Andrew has kind of like this trifecta core of, you know, this Gengar, Incineroar, and Tapu Bulu. Like, it's a really strong core, I think, and kind of hard to break sometimes, and it's really frustrating. But again, like, on Patrick's side, he's also kind of just, you know, got a couple options on there. That Ferrothorn, which hasn't seen a lot of play recently, is kind of, you know, a good answer to, like, maybe a rain team that we just saw last round, but it's also a really frustrating Pokemon.
With Mega Lopunny, I'm not really sure what to really make of the team, but one thing with the Mega Pokemon is that with Scrappy, it can hit Ghost types, so that could be something that is a potential tool versus...
All right, and
Oh,
Patrick leading with that Lopunny and that Tapu Fini as Andrew leads with this Incineroar and this Tapu Bulu. You know, again, kind of like the really nice sort of like core lead on there. And this Jackson Finch, wherever Jackson is in this room, I'm sure he'll appreciate this. But Tapu Fini does get the terrain advantage with that Misty terrain, overriding Tapu Bulu's grassy terrain.
Yeah, so that's one thing. I think here, the way the terrain effects took place means that the Fini is in the backseat, but it's also that Lopunny has the faster fake out, so maybe, oh well, he goes for that, so that might mean that it's a fake out play or something else entirely.
All right, and so that Tapu Fini, you know, kind of scared maybe of that Tapu Bulu's sort of gas type moves, is going to be switching out for that Ferrothorn as Mega Lopunny going to be taking the field on here. You know, we did see that at the Oceania Internationals, going for that fake out into that the Incineroar slot, so does manage to get it first. The Wood Hammer from Tapu Bulu, though, going into what was that Tapu Fini, does miserable damage on there, and also does get that recoil, not just from its regular recoil, but also from that Iron Barbs on here, as that Incineroar takes a dead turn because of that flinch.
Yeah, I think the Wood Hammer onto the Fini was something that Patrick just had to play around, so maybe coming from Andrew, like, in a future scenario, he might be more mindful of it. Usually I see those Gengar-based teams lead with Gengar or Komao and try to build around those threats, but the way Andrew is playing this is very fascinating because I think this is a particular adaptation to the Mega Lopunny.
Oh, and then Como hitting
no.
the field now. Everybody's favorite Clangy boy, also known as Como Ono for Andrew's side. High jump kick does connect with that Incineroar, though picks up the knockout on there. That Tapu Bulu going to be going back there, and now this Clangy boy is going to be staying here, taking that Gyro Ball, I don't know, from that Ferrothorn. Going to do some good damage on there, but you know, Andrew kind of having the option now to decide what he wants to switch in here. He brings back that Tapu Bulu, gets that terrain back up once more.
I think Patrick's choice of fighting move is very interesting.
High jump kick is scary.
Yeah, this is going to be something that's going to have unexpected outcomes from time to time, especially as you play a best of 3 where you have more opportunities to miss or run into a protect or a ghost type.
Yeah, obviously, or your Pokemon avoiding the attack.
oh yeah. Obviously, with Lopunny, it can hit ghost types, so it's not that big of a deal, but it's still not something you really want to use into a Gengar, so I feel like, yeah, there you go, there's a switch. And
like that Lopunny is going to be switching out, and this Pokemon, the Zapdos, is going to be switching into that slot right there. So, you know, kind of preventing any sort of damage with that. But we also now have that Tapu Fini coming into play in that Ferrothorn spot, going to be rewriting that that terrain, gonna get the Misty Terrain on there, and Andrew does kind of that option to kind of go for, actually goes for a Flamethrower instead, so Patrick kind of reading that and hits that Tapu Fini slot instead of that Ferrothorn as Woodhammer goes into the Zapdos slot, which was that Lopunny slot.
Yeah,
so
that was a very good turn defensively by Patrick. I think being able to bring in Feeny into the Como is just something that will really scare off the Z-move plan. And Zapdos, presumably carrying Heat Wave, will be able to scare off Tapu Bulu and pressure it.
I mean, I feel like, you know, when you use that Z move with Como, you're really using it to do that much damage. You're using it to get those stat boosts. So you can use other moves at freely because, you know, you can do it in front of fairies and not blink. But Andrew actually gonna be switching out that Como, and I guess we're playing tag because hey, there we are, because that Gengar. Oh, that makes so much sense. That Shadow tag.
These names are so good.
I'm trying to guess what Pokemon comes out based off these names. It's really interesting. But that Tailwind now from Zapdos as Tapu Fini protects itself from a Rock Slide now from Andrew's Tapu Bulu. I'm gonna connect with that Zapdos, but the Zapdos managed to get that Tailwind up. Interesting to know, it did obviously already go before that Tapu Bulu.
So, at 50 HP, the Zapdos should be able to activate a Pinch Berry if it possessed one, but the fact that it's not being activated means that it's going to be a different item.
It could also be a Z move, just because of the fact that, you know, we have this terrain, and most of the time when you pair up terrain with that Zapdos, we've had this terrain switch in multiple times already, and, you know, nothing has activated from it. And now Andrew kind of has that option to keep Patrick from switching out, which was so important to him early on.
Yeah, this meta seems to be based around lots of switching or Pokemon that prevent switching in the case of Shadow Tag users, and once one Pokemon goes down, then like that snowballs so quickly, and that's why we're seeing a lot of these adaptive plays where both players are trying to get punished the least as possible.
And, you know, Patrick preemptively stopping that Shadow Tag from keeping his other Pokemon in there, doing a double switch in, getting the Lopunny and that Ferrothorn back into this game in place of that Finny and in place of that Zapdos, as Andrew protects his Gengar this turn and goes for the Rock Slide one more time with that Tapu Bulu. Obviously no flinches because of the fact that, you know, this was a double switch in, but now this Lopunny and this Ferrothorn are stuck, are trapped into this match against this Tapu Bulu and this Gengar, but I don't think it's a bad place for him to be.
Yeah, this is not a bad place per se, but I do believe that positionally Patrick is playing this particular game better, and the fact that the Mega Lopunny will most likely outspeed the Gengar might be something else that Andrew has to watch out for.
And Andrew not going to want to have this Tapu Bulu take some damage on here as he goes back for that Como slot, but the Encore from Patrick's Lopunny going into that Gengar, so it will be going for that Protect once more. Does get the double Protect, surprisingly, which does, you know, occasionally happen, but that Gyro Ball going into that slot where that Tapu Bulu was going to be doing some okay damage onto that Como once more.
Yeah, with that damage, I think Como is pretty safely put into Lopunny's attack range, and that might mean that Andrew might end up ending this game without using his Z move ever, and that's not really why he brought Como, so that's something that he might have to watch out for going into game 2 and 3.
Yeah, especially because, like, Patrick's been playing very nicely in the whole pivoting and switching, and Andrew finally being forced to show that, like, that Shadow Tag on there, and I maybe by some weird decision he doesn't have the Z Crystal on that Como, and, you know, maybe has something else, but that Gengar gets the third Protect, actually. What the heck on here? As return from that Lopunny goes into the Como spot, does manage to knock it out, and so any attack from this, so that Leaf Seed from this Ferrothorn does not quite connect into that Gengar. Can we talk about that 3 turns in a row Protect? What the snaps?
Yeah, it's just Pokemon, you know? But I really think the commitment to the Mega Lopunny here is paying dividends for Patrick, because that's how he dealt with Incineroar, Ferrothorn's biggest threat. So this 2-threat system of Ferrothorn being able to handle everything from Andrew that's not called Como and Incineroar, and then Feeny to check the Como.
Yeah, and a forfeit from Andrew on here, you know, kind of just understanding that he didn't really have a way out of here like that. I mean, losing that Incineroar so early, and then just kind of getting encored into that Protect really, really sort of just kind of hurt Andrew's chances of making any sort of, of comeback.
Yeah, and it's very difficult, I think, to predict what kind of moves an unorthodox Pokemon would use, so I think it's okay for you to potentially lose a game in game 1 because of these information-based turns. Having said that, I think Andrew's game plan should be more Gengar or Como-centric. So I would like to see him mix up his leads going into game 2, personally.
Yeah, I think having that Gengar maybe from the get-go and being able to decide, hey, is this the Pokemon that I want to trap in? Like, maybe I don't, Mega this turn, and like having that ability to like, I think what you would mention before, having the Incineroar Gengar next to each other might be a smart lead on here. I also think Patrick kind of just was a couple steps ahead of Andrew, able to continually switch out and predict moves that Andrew was gonna do, and
Yeah, it felt like Andrew was playing in the present, and Patrick was playing a couple turns into the future a little bit.
Yeah. And I think he kind of has that luxury because Andrew hadn't shown that Gengar until later, until like that mid-game, and so Patrick kind of having this ability to be like, oh yeah, I kind of am gonna switch around because I know you're gonna go after these Pokemon, and I can switch them out. There's nothing stopping me. And I think Andrew does need to kind of adjust for that. And now we've got this lead of Lopunny and Landorus there, and from Patrick's side, as now we have the lead that we were both kind of hoping for, which is that Gengar Incineroar on Andrew's side of the field.
Ooh, this is nice. I like Landorus here because...
What a choice words there.
Yeah, sorry for being bad. But the Landorus here is that... I feel like with the rise of Intimidate Incineroar, Gengar became secretly really good. Now it's pretty well known, but when Incineroar first came out with Intimidate, people were kind of dismissing Mega Gengar, and now it's back in full force with the Intimidate Incineroar put into its teams. So I think Landorus is a pretty natural response to that, but I think a Bulu might be in the back for Andrew, and that's just something that you have to play around constantly.
And Patrick switching out that Lopunny, not even Mega Evolving it, as he goes for that Zapdos into that slot, and Andrew switching out that Incineroar instead, actually for that Tapu Bulu that we had seen, and bringing in that grassy terrain. So again, kind of like that core 3 with that Incineroar, Tapu Bulu, and that Gengar, as Andrew goes for the Mega Gengar here, gonna trap in this Landorus and this Zapdos, unless that Landorus has U-turn, which a lot of Landorus do like to carry, but going for the Protect on Andrew's side, not going to take any sort of attacks, maybe like an Earthquake, which that's exactly what this Landorus is going for, and thanks to that Tapu Bulu switch in, it's going to be doing like way less damage now onto that Tapu Bulu.
Yeah.
Like, little tiny damage, but barely even
just
moved.
a little bit.
I
But
think
that
he
comes
gets it
back
back.
to almost full. Maybe he has 1 or 2 points missing, but it's like the same thing. Now Landorus is in a really weird place.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially if that's a choice graph Landorus, like,
Then you're just stuck on, well...
on just
Yeah.
Earthquaking, yep, and there we go. And so Earthquake once more on there. We saw what little it did to that Tapu Bulu, and maybe like does almost get to halfway on that Mega Gengar,
bulky,
but
nice.
it still survived and it lives another day. As we have the taunt from that Mega Gengar going to the Zapdos, going to prevent any sort of Tailwind from going up, but goes for the Heat Wave instead, connects with both Pokemon, going to do some good damage onto that Tapu. Oh, I lied. That is not good damage on that Tapu Bulu for like a Heat Wave.
That must be a very bulky Zapdos then.
Yeah, and so actually now Andrew manages to pick up the knockout on the Landorus with the Wood Hammer, gets that recoil damage, but gets a little bit of health back at the end of this turn because of that grassy terrain.
Yeah, with the Landorus gone too, I think Andrew can now play in a very safe kind of way where he can just switch Bulu for Incineroar and protect his Gengar and get that extra turn of health recovery and then start making plays with the Fake Out support.
And Shadow the Lopunny going to be taking the field in place of that Landorus, going to be trapped into this spot here. And like you said, I think Andrew might have to consider like, hey, there's that Heat Wave, let's bring in something that can resist that. And I mean, this Lopunny, but it also has that high jump kick. And even though that high jump kick is, a really scary kind of accuracy move, when it connects, it can just knock out that Incineroar.
Yeah, as we have seen at -1, it just completely knocked it out. And, that is big damage. That really is. Even if it's super effective, the fact that without a Z move, such a bulky Pokemon can be knocked out like that, I think that's really saying something. I think Andrew is really playing around the Lopunny this turn, and
actually switches out, his Gengar instead, and actually brings that brings the Incineroar and Spada in place of that Gengar, as opposed to the Tapu Bulu side, which also kind of an interesting choice on there.
Is he playing
but
around double
very
switch.
nice. The double switches out there, brings in that Como-O once more. So we have the same 4 from Andrew confirmed, and I think those switch choices are good because I like it. I think the most important thing about Shadow Tag is that you have the ability to decide when you want to switch stuff.
I think Andrew was playing in a way that was very mindful of the opponent's ability to make use. The blue switch in my opinion, was somewhat obvious, so maybe by double switching with the Como replacing the Tapu Bulu, he's completely playing around the possibility of a low punny hard read.
Yeah, and that was exactly what had happened, you know, that Lopunny going after that Gengar because of that scrappy ability, wanting to get damage, doesn't get the Pokemon it wants to hit, but now this Intimidate from that Incineroar, I keep wanting to call it Jackson, is, you know, is kind of lowering the attack on this Lopunny, and that Como can kind of comfortably, you know, switch into that spot where that Tapu Bulu was and took that Heat Wave really nicely.
Yeah, the Zapdos doesn't seem very invested in special attack, but still, being able to survive things like that while, well, not to survive, but basically get 3-hit KO'd by that as a super effective attack, that's crazy.
And Patrick taking advantage of the fact that Mega Gengar is no longer on the field to switch in this Tapu Fini and overwrite that terrain with Misty Terrain, and that high jump kick connecting once more into that Incineroar. We're going to easily pick up that KO on here. Again, you know, one of those riskier moves on there, but Como using close combat, actually going after that Lopunny, picking up that KO easily as well. So kind of a switch off in terms of Pokemon getting knocked out. Does get the drop on its attack and defense, and now we've kind of got like this 3-2. So now this Zapdos is going to be right back next to this Tapu Fini, and you know, Andrew, doesn't matter if he brings in Gengar because everything's kind of stuck in the field now on Patrick's side.
Yeah, I actually really like the way he played that this turn, because I felt that maybe he could have conserved the Incineroar and lowered the attack, but he just went for an attack that turn and knocked it out, and now he doesn't have to use the Intimidate. It doesn't matter. So, like, getting that free switch on the Gengar was more important for the Pokemon that Patrick had in the back. I think this was a really well played game from Andrew. And, well, the game is far from over, especially with how low Gengar is, but...
Oh, Gengar actually going for the Sludge Bomb onto that Zapdos as we finally see that Klinger Soul Blaze from Andrew's Como-O, and obviously not going to touch that Tapu Fini because of the Fairy typing. But gonna do some fun damage onto that Zapdos.
Yeah, Zapdos is going to be in like a concert with like these dragons, and you know, Zapdos is just gonna get hearing loss. Poor Zapdos.
I mean, you know, this is, if there was ever a time for like Andrew to really go after this, I mean, at least now he can cross his fingers and hopes he survives something from that Tapu Fini when it potentially attacks him. But I think more importantly, he gets this sort of boost available from that Klinger Soul Blaze, and that's honestly one of the more important things. You get that attack. He gets that attack and defense back from when he had lost it with that superpower, but more importantly, that special defense against, like, you know, a Tapu Fini, which obviously is a more specially attacked Pokemon, going now into that slot. I mean, that quadruple weakness. I mean, even at this, I feel like maybe if it had been at full health, it might have held on, but
yeah, that requires like some particular training methods. Like, it has to be trained to survive those things, I think. I've seen Chromos that live Dazzling Gleam from Tapu Koko, and I think they all work in that same idea that to live a fairy type attack, you need a defensive investment.
I will say, I think it was a good choice still though to use that Z move, because you get rid of that Zapdos like guaranteed, and now, you know, you have this Gengar, this Tapu Bulu, which love to go against Tapu Fini because, you know, super easy there. And
yeah.
now we see in a mirror of game 1, Patrick forfeiting to Andrew, forcing us to a game 3, and Andrew's choice to adjust his lead was spot on. I think that's exactly like what won him the game in that.
Oh yeah, Andrew was making very purposeful positional decisions, and I think in a game like Pokemon, there really isn't best and worst plays. It's more about analyzing the situation and coming up with the best outcome for that given period.
I will say, I think Patrick has a better chance of winning this matchup if he brings in that Ferrothorn. It's really hard for Andrew to really kind of counter that, because we know that Lopunny on Patrick's side takes care of that Incineroar like no problem.
Yeah, Ferrothorn did a lot of work in one, and I feel like that will stay the same, especially with how half of his team is very weak to Ferrothorn, and then the other half can be dealt with Lopunny and Fini. So I would like to see him revert to that kind of selection and play with that kind of defensive switching plan.
And I think Andrew too, going into game 3, has to kind of consider he did a really good job kind of using Gengar in the way that it was intended to with this team, and kind of capitalizing that and going along with it and keeping up that momentum might actually help him win that game 3, even if Patrick decides to bring in that Ferrothorn. And so we have a little bit of a change in lead from both players here. Patrick going with that Lopunny and that Tapu Fini as Andrew changes that Incineroar for the Komao and Gengar.
The Como Gengar lead seems like a lead that tries to get that flexibility, because when you play these teams, sometimes you want either one of them to set up, but you can't really create a situation where you commit to one, so you bring both and protect and bring a redirector or something, or a fake out user like that.
And so that Incineroar coming into the spot for that Komao, not going to take that Moonblast like we had seen, even with that boost, was kind of knocked out. But Lopunny going for that Mega Evolution, maybe if Patrick read that switch and he might be going for that Jump Kick and manages to knock out that Incineroar, which I think is one of the win conditions that Andrew has, is keeping that Incineroar alive. But now all of these Pokemon on Patrick's side are going to be stuck into play because Tag, they're it now from that Mega Gengar. That Shadow Tag also like really hard to capitalize on sometimes. But this Gengar does go for that Protect, wants to keep any sort of damage from happening, does not get faked out because of that, and as the Moonblast from Tapu Fini that was originally intended for that Komao is now going to be taken comfortably by that Incineroar. Does get that special attack drop, but I mean, it's an Incineroar. If you're not Flare Blitzing things, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think Patrick needs to think about his protects, just in the sense that with the fake out pressure, I'm not sure if there's anything safe you can do with that except the double protect. But, like, especially because Gengar is running Taunt and not some obscure move that might punish that, I think that's a pretty reasonable play to make.
Alright, and so fake out from Incineroar into that Lopunny as the Tapu Fini on Patrick's side does use Protect.
Oh, that works too.
And does protect itself against the Sludge Bomb from Gengar on Andrew's side.
Yeah, looking back, that play was definitely more reasonable because it just makes more sense for Andrew to target the Fini with a Sludge Bomb on the Gengar.
And now you're playing the accuracy game because now you're afraid of that high jump kick, but that Incineroar does get switched into for that Tapu Bulu, gonna get that terrain up on the field again. So even if it does get hit with that high jump kick, it'll be, some good damage, but not as much as it would be.
Return on the Gengar. I like that.
Thanks to that Scrappy ability, is managing to connect to that Gengar, gets it to half health, but leaves this Gengar free to Sludge Bomb this Tapu Fini and almost, but not quite, manages to get it knocked out. But that poison will most likely do the job later on if it wasn't for that Water EMC.
Yeah, at least he gets the Z move off. He at least makes use of his item and like his team's resource. So, the poison is unfortunate, but I still don't think it's the end of the world. I think this is something that Patrick can reasonably climb out of, especially if this can give him a free switch.
Hey, I mean, you know what? And this Water EMC going into that Tapu Bulu slot that was in Incineroar, so Andrew, I think, making some really nice calls. Game 1 was very like, oh, hey, you know what? You were calling all my switches, and now he's calling all these attacks and these switches as well. So kind of like a... Oh, alright, yeah, so this Tapu Fini, even after the recovery from that grassy terrain, does get knocked out by that poison. Like you said, though, does give Patrick the chance for that free switch in. Kind of a choice of what to make, but he doesn't have a way to rewrite terrain.
Yeah, and that might mean that the Como in the back is going to be a big problem if nothing is done to it in the near future.
And there's that Ferrothorn that we were hoping to see, and I think Patrick kind of understanding that might have been his best bet against this team. That Incineroar is still going to be a problem, obviously, and this Lopunny needs to be careful because it is probably going to be that next target on here.
I think Lopunny has to be conserved here because after the terrain recovery, Gengar is above half health, so unless there are some damage rolls in play, the return will fail to KO the Gengar.
Oh, but Gengar actually going to go for the Protect on this turn, so going to get some more health back at the end of this round as that Lopunny goes for that return, wanting to pick up that knockout, not quite getting it because of that.
And that's the punish on the Lopunny.
Yep, and so now Andrew taking advantage of that, knocks out that Lopunny, and now that Incineroar in the back is free to go after this Ferrothorn later on. As that Gyro Ball will, I think, pick up that knockout on the Tapu Bulu.
Honestly, that play wasn't bad at all. When the Mega Evolution, when the Lopunny was fainted, it did feel a little bit iffy for Patrick, but then he got the trade back with the Gyro Ball. So, 3v2, but far from over.
Well, the Zapdos is now going to be hitting the field as well, and I think Zapdos and Ferrothorn are kind of really passive Pokemon. It's kind of hard to capitalize with them offensively, but this this Incineroar, one, has fake out pressure, has that flare, has that flare blitz pressure onto that Ferrothorn as well. And this Gengar still kind of sitting there, you know, been doing its job this entire game, just staring down its opponents menacingly and saying, hey, I got you guys.
Not to mean to pick on Patrick's selection, but I feel like with a taunt reveal from Game 2, the Tailwind mode of Zapdos may have been something that was a little bit unnecessary in terms of like being an integral part of his game plan, because at least like from what we're seeing here, I don't think Zapdos has really made an impact during the early game and the mid game, which I feel is very important versus a Mega Gengar.
Right, and so this turn, you know, that Ferrothorn using protecting itself from that Flare Blitz on that from that Incineroar, as the Sludge Bomb from Gengar does connect with that Zapdos, but gets the poison as well. And you know, because Zapdos is a flying type, doesn't get that recovery that the terrain benefits it, and this Gengar slowly getting its health back from that earlier attack.
Yeah, it's like very slow and incremental, so it gets overlooked a lot, but over time, that's a lot of healing.
And so the Zapdos, because of that Tailwind, going to be able to go after that Incineroar with Thunderbolt. Not quite enough to get it even under half health, as it does get as it faints to the Sludge Bomb. And even under Tailwind, this Ferrothorn is so slow, is not quite able to outspeed anything. Does get knocked out, obviously, from that Flare Blitz. And, you know, really good adjustments from Andrew. Just to add insult to injury, that Iron Barb does proc that berry, gets it back to that health on here. So, very nice job on here, I think, from Andrew's side, especially.
Oh yeah, props to Andrew for identifying his win condition from the things that happened in Game 1 to apply that to Games 2 and 3.
I would like to say he is winning with Komao, and I am loving it. We did get to see it dance. But very, very, very good job. I think Andrew's adjustment from Game 1 especially, just understanding, hey, my win condition is I can't let this Incineroar faint anymore, and understanding, hey, I need to capitalize on this Gengar and not let Patrick have the luxury of switching out, because that's what Gengar's supposed to deny.
Yeah, the ability to switch really turned the game around for Patrick in Game 1, and I think as soon as the Ferrothorn switch-ins were happening, Andrew realized that, and that's why he was able to come up with a very sophisticated game plan in Game 2, and we saw a continuation of that in Game 3.
Yeah, and especially because, like, you know, you have that Komao, like, Gengar lead Game 3, which I think you had been talking about earlier as well, that you had wanted. And then just saying, hey, I'm going to deny you all of this stuff. And like, yeah, I see that you're bringing this Finny and whatnot, but I understand how to play around this team. And, you know, I don't know how other people might feel about it, but I honestly, Gengar, Incineroar, and Tapu Bulu, like, those three together are just such a hardcore to break, because they support each other so well. And all you really need is that fourth one. Like, that Como, yeah, it faints to Moonblast, but again, supported by these three Pokemon, it can sit there and it can do that. And it's a hard three to break.
And Finny is far from the most pressuring Pokemon, so having these answers that are faster, like Gengar and Tapu Bulu, really improve the matchup for Como, because then you can just play in a way that you conserve your late game threat, and then, you know, once the obstacles are out the way with Tapu Bulu and Gengar, then you can initiate that Z move and you just win by sweeping. A little bit like Xerneas from VUC16.
Alright, so with that throwback, we will see you guys for round 5, the last round of Swiss here. Yeah, round 5.
Yeah,
and,
5, but yeah, 5.
Bye!
And so, so we'll see you guys for Swiss round 5 and all about that. There are those Andrew for you. So thank you guys for joining us, and see you for last round of Swiss in a little bit.
Here we go. No! 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 He crit the struggle! He crit the struggle!
What is VGC? Very good content. That's what it stands for. And that's exactly what I got going on here. Alright, here we go. We are going to draw Snorlax's face on this pancake. Alright, it looks like Snorlax. What do you guys think? I need some milk. That was very good content.
Hey!
okay. We dealt with the pressing issue. Oh, no we didn't. No we didn't. No we didn't. No we didn't. I thought I was so smart, but then Black Hole Eclipse happened. Bye, Cresselia.
아, 견딜 거야 아마. 머리 띄어도.
Him before. No! No! I was like, nah, no way. Wow. It's fine, Gardevoir can carry. They obviously didn't bring the Perish Moon.
Come on, Eve, you can do this.